Mark Kerr is a man burdened by greatness. No door can stand against his fists, and no granny can withstand his kind-hearted explanations. But inside this gentle giant hides the darkness of opioid addiction. As Mark smashes opponents in the ring, he finds himself battling his girlfriend Dawn just as ferociously. His kindness and concern for humanity is challenged each time he steps in the ring or the living room. Brought to you by Benny Safdie, writer and director of Uncut Gems, comes a story of pain, struggle, and finding the will to keep going. This movie has audiences asking, "Can you smell what The Rock is cooking?"
It's time, and welcome to the Burnt or Buttered Podcast, where we talk about movies. My name's Stetson.
And I'm Toast.
And today we are talking about
The Smashing Machine.
Not be confused with The Smashing Man.
Or the Hulk.
Yes. Man, I was super excited about this one, mainly because of all the social media footage of The Rock crying at the Venice movie festival when they showed this movie.
I didn't even catch it. I didn't see that.
Yeah, they showed it. There was they said it was like a 15-minute standing ovation for The Rock at the end in Venice. Yeah, when they screened this movie.
Dang. Yeah, I knew that there was a lot of talk about it, mostly because of all the prosthetics that they use on The Rock. This is the first movie. This is historical. This is the first movie that The Rock has ever made that isn't completely relying on his eyebrows.
That is a historical moment.
Yeah, it's a feat. Yeah, I didn't think it was possible, but they put so much prosthetics on his eyebrows and brought him so much lower. He couldn't do it. He had to actually act.
Which he did. I mean, this movie, the acting was at the forefront for sure. The story was interesting. And I struggled with the script a little bit, and the storytelling in general. Mm-hmm. And I wish that they would have actually hired a actor to play his best friend.
Coleman.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the only part of the movie that just brought me out of the movie every single time.
Because he was just kind of flat pretty much the whole time, right?
You could just tell that he was acting the entire movie.
Yeah.
You know, like every scene was just a little bit too much or not enough or a little bit flat. There just wasn't a lot. There was maybe one or two scenes that he was in that I was like, okay, like he's getting it. You know? But the rest of it just like, why didn't we just cast another actor like instead of an MMA fighter? Yeah.
So part of that is Benny Safdie wanting everything to be real, you know? I was listening to an interview with him about this movie, and I guess one of his first movies with his brother was actually a documentary. And he, edited everything on that documentary. So he said that he really came to like that documentary style. And there's a documentary called The Smashing Machine that he had watched, and that was like the inspiration for this movie. And part of the reason why it feels like the story doesn't really go anywhere, it's kind of just this slog of like tough things happening, is because he kept it really close to the documentary. And so there's scenes like you and I have been talking about, the airplane scene where basically Emily Blunt wakes up and takes off her, neck brace or what, neck pillow and deflates it. And that's the whole scene. And you're like, did that add anything to the narrative? Like, what are we supposed to be getting out of this? some of those things were direct scenes from the documentary.
Oh, wow.
And he just wanted to have them in there.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that, but also it threw me off a bit because I could tell the style and I could tell that it was meant to feel authentic. It was meant to feel real, but also these ordinary moments in people's lives we kind of don't need to see, you know, as an audience in a movie that's, you know, it wasn't a short movie.
Yeah.
But there were so many of those that were bringing you into a life of just ordinary moments in a movie that's supposed to be kind of extraordinary, you know, and you're just like this, the juxtaposition of those kind of felt off to me. It felt like they were just competing the whole time, where I was trying to be convinced that this was like really special while showing like the super ordinary.
Yeah.
Even the very end scene of Mark
Kerr.
Mark Kerr himself
Grocery shopping. And then him talking to himself or talking to the audience, breaking the fourth wall. Yeah.
And it was just ordinary.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? Why are we doing that? You know, like, but to the credit of that, I'm looking at Emily Blunt and I'm looking at The Rock, and I see amazing performances of the ordinary.
Yeah.
Where Emily Blunt, I forgot who she, like, I forgot that it was Emily Blunt. Like, Dawn existed, and Dawn was like such a believable person. You're just like, that's someone that grew up struggling their whole life and has a little bit of fame and like is toxic in a lot of different ways of trying to compete for attention from this person that she cares about.
Yeah.
It was, so that was interesting, but the story just kind of like lacked.
I've heard a lot of people talking about it felt like you were following the wrong person in the story. You know, like some people have said you should have been following Mark Coleman since he's the one who won, right?
Yeah.
And people think that would be maybe a more interesting story. Benny Safdie said that, I mean, you think about Uncut Gems, right? And that's a movie that leaves you pretty unsatisfied and like dark feelings, you know?
Sure.
He wanted to do something a little bit lighter. He wanted to do something that would leave you feeling more hopeful with this one, which is interesting because the whole thing kind of, to me, felt like a slog. Like you're just going through this swamp of just bad situation after terrible thing, you know? And then at the end, you get this glimpse into his current life, right? Where he's just a normal guy looking like he goes from being The Rock at his largest, like they had The Rock gain weight for this role. Like that's the first time anybody's ever said that to The Rock. Can you get bigger? And he was like, oh, sure. Yeah, that's easy. But then you go from that to just this guy looking like a normal guy you would see at the grocery store. And basically Benny Safdie kind of wanted to convey like, hey, Mark Kerr got through this and he's doing fine. I don't know that it necessarily landed that way, but that was his intention.
Yeah. Parts that I enjoyed were the psychology of Mark Kerr. It starts off with a very deep psychological monologue of him talking about just fighting and his views on fighting and what he thinks about when he's in the ring. And that was interesting. And then you go deeper into his mentality of training and like how seriously he takes it. And, you know, the fights that he has with Dawn and everything else. And then you go into, you know, the opioid addiction and how that's affecting him. And then you go into like his thought process of him completely not being able to even process the thought of losing.
Yeah.
Like it just, literally like, he's like, I'm really like actually trying to imagine what it would feel like to lose and I can't, you know, like those things were interesting throughout the movie. And I wish that there would have been a closing on the backside of that, other than standing in the shower with 2 shower heads spraying on him and him being like, I'm okay losing. Like, I'm happy for my friend. That didn't feel good enough for me as far as the closing of that psychological events. Like, I feel like we needed more to get to the point, like you said, that the goal was of, oh, he's good. You know, like he's like healed. And what if you think that he's broken, like he's healed, like he's good now. I didn't get that.
Yeah. And I can totally see that. When I left the theater, I was not super pumped on this movie, honestly. Like we went to a late showing and it was tough, you know, to pay attention, honestly, for parts of it. And then just the constant battle between him and Don just eventually felt like a drudgery to me until an important scene that I think everybody knows what I'm talking about.
What?
When she pulled the gun.
Oh, like, yeah.
That I was instantly filled with adrenaline. Like, that was so shocking.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I really like the depthness of Dawn because Emily Blunt, through very small amounts of dialogue, was able to show like very deep thought patterns and motives inside of Dawn that you got to see so much deeper than the surface. Like Dawn with you're thinking about of all the events of Dawn, like when she's making it his smoother at the very beginning and she kind of messes it up. Later on in the movie, you can look back at that and wonder, did she do that on purpose? You know, like there's so many things that she did to kind of throw a monkey wrench into Mark Kerr's life on purpose, because he always kind of fell back on her as like a loving kind of motherly caregiver. And so she had to create the chaos in his mind and in his life for him to like come back and kind of worship her.
And she even does kind of have some dialogue about that when she's talking to her friend, right? Saying, oh, it was so much better when he was addicted because then I had to take care of him. He needed me, you know? Yeah.
And then, to the scene where she freaks out, like that's all just a game to get him to come back to her because he's kind of done at that point. He's done with her.
Yeah.
And she recognizes that. And she's like, how can I manipulate this person into getting control back to him? And the only way to do that is to, act like you're going to do something.
So you don't think she was going to?
No, I never think that she was. It was only to get attention. And I mean, you see it a lot in other relationships where there's a toxic relationship and a codependency, and a person will throw that out there as a threat to their love in a way to get them to stay with them. And I think that was her goal the whole time, was just like, oh, you don't want to be with me? Okay, well, I'm going to go off myself so you can't have me. And like, he loves her enough not to want her to die.
Yeah. Just a crazy situation. Like, instantly snapped me awake. Like,
it was shocking for sure. You definitely didn't see it coming.
No, it came out of nowhere.
But when it first happened, I was thinking like, oh, she possibly could do this. But as it went on and we learned more and more and more, like even her going into the bathroom and like him breaking down the door, it all just led me to like, she was never going to take the pills. Like she was never going to do that. Like it was all just a threat.
The pills. Yeah. I can see where you're like, as further evidence, like she could have taken them. She had plenty of time, but she waited for him to break down the door.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about The Rock smashing doors, because that first one was crazy. Like there was not much of a door left.
Yeah. It looked like a freaking real door too.
They both looked like real doors. I mean, the second one was a solid door. The first one was a hollow one, but yeah, he just punched right through it.
Well, and I think it like goes to show like these people that are able to be super violent. Like a lot of them like have the ability to control their rage in certain ways, or they use it, you know, in the most progressive way that they can for their lives.
Yeah.
And like even him just showing so much restraint in different ways of just like, he can kill anybody, basically just beat anybody that he wants. But
except
like,
for anybody that he's fighting for a championship against.
I feel like the movie kind of alluded to the idea that he lost on purpose.
Lost on purpose, or just like got distracted. I think the first one, he knew the rule, and he like the guy who was breaking the rule had asked the question. So that guy obviously knew the rule as well. And I think he was waiting for him to call a foul on it.
Yeah.
And they never did. So I think that one was really tough for him.
Yeah, for sure. The second one, like of his, like, oh, he's not broken anymore. I think that he like acknowledged that I can lose and my friend, I rather lose than have to fight my friend.
Yeah. Well, and I like going back to the acceptance, you know, and sometimes that's just the way it is in life, you know, like you don't have to have like some big thing or like have some big monologue explaining like, this is why I'm okay. You know, it's sometimes you're just sitting in the shower and you're like, I feel like standing in the shower today instead of sitting down, you know.
Who sits down in the shower?
Depressed people.
Yeah. I mean, there were so many moments of this movie that I was kind of questioning. The very end scene of them going back and forth between Mark Coleman and Mark Kerr, one's in the shower, kind of washing away his feelings. One's like, you know, basking in the glory of winning this title. When he turned on the second shower head, I thought for sure that Mark Coleman was going to keep coming to that shower.
And then they were just going to like bump fists. Be like, nice job, bro.
I don't know. I was like, why are we in the shower?
The shower was like a weird choice, especially the two shower heads and like standing between them.
Like, he's like too big.
Yeah.
You know, you just can't use just one shower head.
They asked him to get bigger and then he was too big for one shower.
I feel like it would have been just as good or better if they both would have been sitting on the bench kind of in a similar style. Mark Kerr losing, Mark Coleman winning, and them both accepting the reality of their situations. Instead of like the shower, not shower, like back and forth. And it went back and forth so many times.
For a long time. Yeah.
It was just like, this has to be leading us somewhere. And it never really did.
Yeah. It was all just internal. One more thing about the filming, since we've already talked about the end scene. So the whole movie is shot on Super 16 film, right? Because Benny Safdie said that is traditional documentary film, and he wanted it to look like a documentary. Everything except for that last scene with Mark Kerr. What format do you think that was shot on?
I don't know.
8mm, 35mm, 65mm.
What is it, 70?
It's IMAX film. It's 65mm. So, and he said that he wanted the whole thing to look like a documentary, right? Until it came to modern day. And then he wanted it to be ultra clear and crisp. Like, there was obviously a shift in like the look of it and the feel of it. Yeah. And at the end, he breaks the fourth wall and says, "Hey guys, you know," and that was it was all scripted, right? Yeah. And that part
even
was
him like talking to himself was scripted. He's like, "Oh, this is crazy. This is crazy."
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Wow.
I think they said, "Just be you," you know. Just
he's like, "Dang, wow." This is crazy.
But it was to show that like he's such a cool, humble guy that he's like amazed people are still interested in him now that he's just a normal guy, you know? And that the whole movie was just exploring like the extraordinary within the ordinary. And so this very, very ordinary scene is the most beautiful of the whole movie.
I don't know. It took so long. It took probably half of the scene for me to realize what was happening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where I was like, we go into the grocery store and it's, you know, the final kind of scene ends in the traditional, you know, documentary, and then it opens up in the grocery store and I'm just like, what the heck? Yeah. And then you're expecting The Rock and it's not, and you're just like, is that supposed to be Mark Kerr? And then it like goes through the whole thing, and it's like until the very last moments when he's like, well, thanks guys, or whatever he says, I'm like, oh, that's what happened. Yeah. It just felt so disconnected to the movie that I was like, and I feel like it hurts the movie.
I definitely feel like for me, it was just confusing. Like now that I've listened to Benny Safdie talk about it, which if you get the chance to listen to a Benny Safdie interview, actually pretty interesting. Like this guy is an artist, man. Like whether you like his movies or not, just the passion that he has for these things and the way that he talks about them and the things that he's interested in within his movies, it's so fascinating. So take a listen. There's one with Christopher Nolan at the Directors Union or whatever, interviewed Benny Safdie after a screening of this movie, and he's a big fan. So if Christopher Nolan's a fan, then you know it's at least like a 2.5 star.
I mean, like I said, I see a lot of, as I was watching the movie, I could tell that it was meant to be like these are ordinary moments. And it was interesting to watch those, but also I kind of don't want to watch ordinary moments in someone's life. You know, when we're doing improv, like every scene is supposed to be just like a moment in time. Yeah. You know, and why are we watching this moment in time? And you're kind of discovering why you're watching this single little moment in time as you're doing a scene. Yeah. And there's always kind of a reason. In this movie, there was too many parts of it where I just felt like there wasn't a reason why we were watching. You know, give me something at least a little deeper. And there was always a glimpse of it. You know, even the shake, you know, in the morning of him being super particular, and then him even sitting down and, you know, kind of being upset that she made his shake wrong, and then him thinking about it and being like, you know what? Thank you for making my shake. Like, I really mean it. And then she's like, says something, and he's like, even though like you put in the wrong milk, like I really appreciate that. Like you did, like, but like pay attention, you know, whatever he said. And he went, it was like a compliment, but then also a reminder, like freaking pay attention. And so it was an interesting glimpse of who he was or who he is, in the way of like, I'm acknowledging the effort that you put in, but also acknowledging that it doesn't take that much more effort to just get it right. And so, yeah, there was enough of those moments where it made sense to have the ordinary, but there was too many of them, in my opinion, where I was just kind of like, this is just a waste of moments.
Yeah. And I feel like I felt that exact same way until listening to Benny Safdie, which, you know, I don't think that makes it a stronger movie. You know, I don't think that makes it a better or movie or like easier to recommend, because it is a tough one to get through, and not for the reasons that I thought going into it that it would be tough. Like I thought going into it, you would see like some pretty life-changing injuries or something like that, you know? But it wasn't really about that. It was more about the emotional damage going on, you know? And so that was tougher for me to watch than, somebody getting their head bashed in.
Yeah.
Even though we saw that too.
We did see that.
From outside the ring. Because that was another thing that he did on purpose. The camera never goes inside the ring.
Oh, interesting. I didn't really notice that, but it makes sense.
He also shot the fights with Emily Blunt the same way that he was trying to shoot the fights in the ring, so that they had kind of that similar feel.
Interesting. Well, do you have anything else before we rate this thing?
Let's talk about the score.
God.
Because we haven't even touched on that yet.
Dude, that was a super frustrating thing about this movie.
Yeah.
For sure. The tone of the score really was off-putting. I mean, it was like at one point kind of like 1950s like detective kind of sounding. I really love scores of movies, and it's something that I really pay attention to.
Yeah.
And I could not get over like the sound of this movie. The same thing with the movie that the tennis movie with
Challengers.
The score in Challengers was horrendous as well.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, but in a way different way.
Yeah.
Like Challengers, it was like all crazy, like upbeat, weird type sounds, and this one was all kind of muted and I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Let me ask you this. If you watch this movie and I said, how many movies do you think that person has scored? Let's just ask you, how many movies do you think that person has scored?
I don't know. I know that they were going for a certain
They
style.
have zero movie experience.
Well, it makes sense.
So again, this is one of those things that was pretty interesting to listen to Benny Safdie talk about. It's a jazz artist that he just found and really liked, and she has no movie experience before, but it was kind of improv. So like
she would watch it and just
yeah. And he really enjoyed it. Me personally, it sounded so discordant and like it. I think a movie score is good when you either don't notice it or you're like, I want to download that to my Spotify playlist, you know? And this was like, you could not ignore it because there were a lot of bad sounds there.
I think that you were finding things to think about because the scenes were so ordinary that you were noticing a lot more details, you know? And so I think the sound kind of was highlighted by the fact that there wasn't really much that you had to really pay attention to in the dialogue, like a lot of the time. And the travel scenes and things like that, where the music obviously bumps and you're hearing everything else. It makes sense that it was improv. There was definitely a style to it.
Yeah.
But it's not good.
Not my style.
No. I mean, saw Tron, and Tron has a very distinct score between the movies, and I thought the first movie did a way better job with the score, but there's definitely good ways and bad ways of doing it. I'm trying to think of a movie that, you have just the iconic Christopher Nolan movies that, Hans Zimmer, that just makes amazing scores, but I think it makes or breaks a movie, and if this had a better score, maybe like a more pump up, like, I don't know, like more matching the feel of transitioning, having like a kind of a dark feeling, like score at the beginning, ominous, or even just the two sides of his life and personality, the dichotomy there of having dark kind of themed music when he's fighting and when he's in that kind of state. And then you have kind of a lighter, kind of feeling when he's himself and just being nice and friendly to everybody. I definitely could have changed the dynamic of the movie.
Yeah, the score was tough, very tough to listen to. But after that, I have nothing else to say.
All right. Well, let's rate this. Man, this is a hard one because we just filmed him, and I gave him, I think, like a 2.5.
Yeah,
and I'm stuck in the way of, is this better or is this worse than him?
Mm-hmm.
And because if we're talking about performances,
yeah,
like Emily Blunt and The Rock, I think this is The Rock's best performance he's ever done, for sure. Emily Blunt had an amazing performance as well. And in him, you know, Tyreek Withers and Marlon Wayans had amazing performances too. I don't know. This one's tough for me. I'm going to give it a 2.8.
Whoa.
I think that the style of this movie is individualistic. Mm-hmm. I think that some people are going to fall in love with it. I think the performances are good enough to watch it. The story isn't there for me totally, but I appreciate the effort and the ordinary. So it's hard. This is a hard one for me because as I was watching it, I enjoyed parts.
Yeah.
But on the whole, leaving the theater, 2.8.
Yeah. I there's a lot that I'm agreeing with you here, especially the comparison between him and this, because they're both sports movies that don't really fit in the sports movie genre. You know, like they're oddballs. Mm-hmm. This one is definitely more of an oddball than I think anybody could go and watch him and come out of it thinking that was like an average movie experience, you know?
Sure.
Like they won't be too upset that they watched it. Right.
Yeah.
I think that there are some people who could go to this expecting like a big fight sports movie and they'll walk out thinking like that was lame.
Well,
yeah.
Do you think that that's kind of a crutch of the horror genre though? Because you get to the end of a movie and you have all this blood and gore and stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, that was a horror movie.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of psychological horror in him as well. But it's just, it's more of, as much as I bagged on it for not having a clear narrative, it has more of a clear narrative than this, you know? So it's easier to recommend something like that. Walking out of the theater, I wasn't super impressed with it. There were things that I was impressed with, like The Rock and Emily Blunt's performances. You know, there were some really good things about it that I appreciated while watching it. After hearing Benny Safdie talk about it, I liked it even more. But then hearing or remembering the score, I liked it just a little bit less. So I'm going to give it a 3.25.
Dang.
Not even a 0.5. This is a first for me.
3.2. What is it?
3.25.
3.25.
3 1/4.
That's more than you gave him.
And maybe it deserves it a little bit more. No, I think that they were both really interesting movies for completely different reasons.
Yeah, I do feel like the horror side of it acts as a crutch. Mm-hmm. Like if you took the horror out of the ending of him, I feel like the feelings would be different. Mm-hmm. I think it would be better of a movie, in my opinion.
I think so too.
But I think that like the average person watching it, they're expecting, you know, horror at the end. They
need that huge climax.
And yeah, they're going to leave the theater. Like no matter how good or bad the movie was, they'll be like, oh yeah, it was a horror movie. Like I like horror.
Yeah.
Type idea. But yeah, let us know what you guys think of this one. And yeah, it's an interesting watch. It's definitely a kind of indie film that, you know, is going to be individualistic on who likes it and who doesn't. I do think that all the praise given to The Rock. Like when I saw that standing ovation for 15 minutes in Venice or whatever, I was like, really, wasn't that good? Watching the trailers, and the trailers do give like almost every emotional part of that movie away. But I was kind of disappointed by that, but the depthness of The Rock's character, they just gave away in all the trailers. But yeah, I think if you like The Rock and you want to see him do something a little bit different, check this one out.
Check it out.
See you in the next one.